The war between Russia and Ukraine, raging on for years, has left nothing but destruction in its wake. The sound of explosion echoes through the desolate streets, and the stench of death lingers in the air. Buildings that once stood tall and proud now lay in ruins, reduced to nothing but rubble and debris. The cries of the wounded and the dying can be heard, drowned out only by the constant sound of gunfire. The once vibrant cities are now ghost towns, with the only occasional stray dog wandering aimlessly. Families have been torn apart, forced to flee their lives, leaving behind everything they've ever known. The war between Russia and Ukraine has brought nothing but horror, devastation and despair. And now this resulting triple shock of financial, trade and uncertainty shook the very foundations of Russia's economy, causing untold suffering and misery for its people. The wounds inflicted by the war were deep and far-reaching, and the 2.1% decline in GDP was a painful reminder of the devastation wrought upon the nation. Instead of the GDP dropping by a massive 8 to 10%, it's still expected to decline by 3 to 4%. This is better, of course, but we're hoping for so much more. Before the war, a 3% growth rate was predicted, but now it looks like we won't even begin to recover until 2024, and even then, there's a chance that things could get even worse due to factors beyond our control. As we know that the nation heavily relied on the export of oil and fuel for their economy. For years, they enjoyed the sweet profits and growth that came with the black gold. However, things took a turn when they faced sanctions and a prolonged transition period to adapt. It was a tough time for the nation as they saw their net exports dwindle and GDP growth plateau. The nation's budget planners were working overtime trying to find a way to manage the deficit, which was expected to be higher than 2% of GDP they had budgeted. However, they were optimistic that it could still be controlled with the proper management. The citizens of the nation were feeling the impact of these economic woes. Many were struggling to make ends meet, and the overall mood was one of anxiety and uncertainty. The most recent Buffett forecast had confirmed their fears the economy would continue to be in recession throughout the year. A game of Jenga where the tower of wooden blocks represents Russia's economic stability and prosperity. Each block is a connection to the advanced Western economies, the very same ones that Russia now views as unfriendly. The higher the tower, the greater the success and potential for growth. But now imagine someone coming in and suddenly pulling out more than half of these blocks. That's the reality of what's happening here, and cutting ties with these advanced economies. The tower would come crashing down, leaving Russia with limited capacity for development, much like a city without power. This isn't just about money and trade, it's also about research and innovation. The Western economies are leading the charge in these areas with cutting-edge technologies and breakthrough discoveries. Without access to these resources, Russia risks falling behind in the global race for progress and prosperity, and it's worrying. Russian industry, including the military sector, heavily relies on the import of high-tech goods, primarily from the West. With ongoing recessions, it's likely to persist and cause significant harm. Unfortunately, all imports of technology have decreased, except for those from Turkey. This trend is leading to a collapse in production, and companies are being forced to resort to more rudimentary methods. Almost all industries are in need of import substitution, but because of the sanctions, it's becoming regressive, replacing outdated parts with less sophisticated ones. This is a concerning trend that could have a long-term consequence for Russia's economy and industrial capabilities. Furthermore, many Western companies are voluntarily departing, and the complete break in the trade with Europe in energy commodities have left the country with no equivalent alternatives. To make matters worse, investments are at a risk of being slashed, and private businesses are already limiting investments due to the unfavourable business climate. With the war and sanctions, it's only going to get worse. International container shipping firms are refusing to do business with Russia, even for non-sanctioned commodities, which is making it difficult to supply even friendly governments. It's not just the delivery of items that's a problem, but also the payment of them. Transactions in euros and dollars can be delayed or stopped. Things are looking quite bleak. The situation is escalating rapidly and sanctions are being prepared for. It's not just that. The consequences could be far-reaching and disastrous. Can you imagine what would happen if Russia were to be cut off from SWIFT? This would lead to a massive disruption in the financial system, and the effects would be felt worldwide. And let's not forget the major banks and state companies have already conducted stress tests which show the catastrophic impacts of being blocked from the correspondent account and the Western technology supply chain. The assessments sent to their authorities were so overly optimistic and failed to report any issues, even though the worst punishment expected was a ban on IT and microchips, which initially wouldn't impact most industries. It seems like the effects of the sanctions have been more long-lasting than anticipated. The preparations made by the authorities softened the blow in the short term, but at what cost? Now, despite the initial relief, it seems that the decline in industrial production during the first 10 months of this year was only mitigated by a mere 0.1%. What's even more troubling is that this seemingly positive outcome was largely due to increased military spending, which served to obscure the significant declines in civilian sectors such as vehicle manufacturing, which saw nearly a 50% reduction, timber processing and machine building. The growth in industries such as clothing and metal goods, which included tanks and missiles. The government's efforts to support businesses have been somewhat lackluster, limited to just a few piecemeal initiatives instead of a comprehensive approach. For instance, they've recently given the green light to cash payments for foreign trade, a strategic move to circumvent the use of more expensive currencies like the dollar or euro. It's important to understand that Russia has been supporting the war effort, its main economic policy objective. As long as the current war of attrition lasts, investing extensively in developing military capabilities will be necessary. This includes various industries that assist the war effort, such as textiles, food and pharmaceuticals, in addition to military-industrial complex. However, it's crucial to consider that a wartime economy can make it simpler to misallocate resources. As a result, Russia is inexorably headed towards a lower potential growth and gloomy economic future. It's important to keep these factors in mind when considering the future of Russia's economy. Now, when it comes to adjusting to these new circumstances, Russian businesses are doing it solo. They're taking on the challenge and showing resilience. The Russian economy is going to make it out alive and well, and if the government stays on the right path, the adaptation period will wrap up by September 2023. However, the pre-war potential of the Russian economy was not too impressive, growing at a rate of 2 to 3% annually. Unfortunately, due to the conflict with Ukraine and some external factors, this growth rate has dropped to around 1%. It'll take a few years to turn things around, but for now growth may be a bit sluggish. Yet, amidst the chaos and destruction, there were glimmers of hope. The central bank's wise and strategic action shielded the economy from complete collapse, and the sheer determination of Russian enterprises to adapt and survive was awe-inspiring. And that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in to our finance video channel. At our channel we strive to empower our viewers with knowledge and understanding of the financial world. If you haven't already, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the latest videos. Feel free to share our videos with your family, friends and colleagues who may also benefit from the information shared on our channel. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.